stage is Dixie Phillips. And I got to tell you a little bit about this young lady. She's appearing on our stage for the third time. She's a featured student teller last year, and then this year created a tale that we just couldn't resist, so we had to have her back again. The daughter of Tiger and Buddy Phillips and niece of Karen Strickland. She's a 7th grader at Madison Creative Arts Academy, and her teacher, Mr. Cooks, helped make this opportunity available. Dixie enjoys the arts, from storytelling to painting. Very diverse young lady, very talented, with her story, Little Red Riding Hood, the true story. Please welcome Dixie Phillips.
There once was a girl named Little Red Riding Hood. If you can imagine it, she was called that because she wore a long red hood made for her by her dear grandmother. But those close to her called her by her real name, Maeve. Maeve spent all of her days climbing trees, playing in the woods, swimming in the creeks, the great outdoors, along with her best friend. But there was just one tiny thing. Her best friend wasn't a human. He was a wolf. His name was Apollo. Every day, Apollo would meet her at the creek, the turtle-shaped rock, and they would go play together all day long. They were teammates. They were a pack. They were best friends. One day, as they came onto the road, they spotted the town doctor, Mr. Fernsby, galloping down the road on his horse. He stopped to greet them, but Maeve noticed something was off. There was a look of concern and urgency on his face. When Maeve asked him what was wrong, she told him. "It's your grandmother," the doctor said. "She's ill." And this, if you can imagine, made Maeve kind of upset because she'd never known her grandmother to be one to be sick. She was just an older version of Maeve. She was the one who had introduced her to Apollo in the first place. Maeve told the doctor that she had to come along with him. She had to make sure her grandmother was okay, but the doctor couldn't let her come. She might get sick too, and that would just be worse than it already was. But she kept arguing with him, and finally he agreed to let her come and bring her grandmother some food later. Maeve agreed, and then her and Apollo were off. After a short stop at her cottage to grab some food, they were through the woods. They were racing at top speed, the snow filtering through the branches of the trees. Just as they reached top speed, a bank of snow was just too deep for them to pass, and so Maeve had to climb off of Apollo's back to climb over it. And then she spotted something. There was a meadow of wildflowers, somehow surviving through the cold snow. She saw it as a sign of hope for her grandmother. If they could survive through the brutal winter, then her grandmother would surely survive her illness. She decided to go pick some. As she knelt down to pull them out of the dirty, snow-soaked soil, she spotted something through the trees. It was the woodcutter. He was staring at her. Unnerved, she grabbed the flowers, got back on Apollo's back, and crossed the snow. As they headed, you can say, over the river and through the woods, they reached the frozen river. They didn't know how thin or thick the ice was, so they had to stop for a moment. Maeve got the weird feeling that someone was following her. She decided that it was best to just push the feeling away. Her grandmother's health was the #1 priority right now. They crossed the river. Finally, they reached grandmother's cottage. They could see the warmth of the fire reflecting on the windows, burning in the grate. Smoke came out the chimney. As they burst through the door, welcomed by the warmth of the fire, grandmother smiled. Seeing her loved ones there made her feel much better. As Maeve sat down with a basket of food to tell her grandmother what she had brought, Apollo turned to the door and growled. "What's wrong?" she asked. He just kept growling. On cue, the door burst open, was the woodcutter, his axe hanging loosely in his hand. The woodcutter scowled. "I'm here for the wolf," he said. Maeve was shocked. "The wolf? Apollo?" The woodcutter scowled deeper. "Yes, he's been killing my brother's cattle," he said. "We have to do something about it. This cannot continue." But Maeve knew better. Her beloved Apollo killing cattle, there wasn't a chance. He was with her all the time. She would know if he did something like that. And so she argued with the woodcutter. She tried to reason with him, to tell him the truth, but in his fury, he wouldn't listen. He raised the axe over his head and brought it down onto Apollo. But at the very last moment, Apollo reared back and grabbed the axe between his jaws. The handle snapped in two and landed with a clatter on the wooden floor of the cottage. But the woodcutter, as it seemed obvious, didn't stop fighting. He attacked Apollo with his bare hands, and needless to say, a few minutes later, he was limping away from the cottage, his torn arm pressed closely to his chest, his axe still lying broken in two on the cottage floor. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the true story of Little Red Riding Hood. Apollo, not the woodcutter, was the hero.
All right.